Good morning, students. Today we are going to see Standard 6th History, Chapter number 8, States after the Maurya Empire. So in this chapter, they had given India map from 4th to 6th century CE. The present international boundaries of India are denoted with dash dot as they had shown. You can see the Gupta Empire, which is denoted with the grey color and the pink color boundaries. Modern city Delhi they had shown. So this is the grey part, which is of Gupta Empire. Kutch, Saurashtra, Vallabhi, Sopara, Ujjaini, Bharuch, Malwa, Bundelkhand, Sanchi, Prayag, Kashi, Vaishali, Kanuj, Patliputra, Chamba, Bodh Gaya, Tamralipiti. These all are the regions which are under Gupta Empire between the 6th and between 4th to 6th century CE. You have to purchase one map and you have to fill the part of Gupta Empire on that map and you have to stick in your classwork. Let's start with the chapter. The few points which we are going to see in this chapter is 6 points. First one, the Shang dynasty. 8.2, Indo-Greek kings. 8.3, Kushana kings. 8.4, the Gupta dynasty. 8.5, the Vardhan dynasty. 8.6, powers in northeast India. The first point, the Shang dynasty. After Emperor Ashoka, Maurya power started declining. The last Maurya emperor was called Brihadrat. The Maurya general Pashumitra Shang revolted against Brihadrat, killed him and became the king himself. So, as the last Maurya empire was called Brihadrat because the Maurya general Pashumitra Shang, he has revolted the Brihadrat, he killed him and he became the king and he declared himself as a king of Shang dynasty. 8.2, Indo-Greek kings. During this period, there were several small kingdoms ruled by Greek kings to the northwest of the Indian subcontinent. Those kings are known as Indo-Greek kings. In the history of the coins of ancient India, the coins of these kings are very important. They had a tradition of putting the picture of the king on one side and that of the deity on the other side. This tradition later took root in India. One of the famous Indo-Greek king was Menander, who discussed Buddhist philosophy with the Buddhist bhikkhu Nagsen. Menander is also referred to as Milinda. The questions that he discussed with bhikkhu Nagsena had led to the creation of book Milinda Panha. The Pali word Panha means question. So, under this Indo-Greek kings, here they had given about the Greek kings to the northwest of the Indian subcontinent. Also, they had given the Indo-Greek kings. They had a history of the ancient coins in India. The coins of these kings are very important. They had a tradition of putting the king's picture on one side of the coin and the deity's picture on the other side of the coin. This tradition had been followed in India after the Indo-Greek kings, and one of the famous Indo-Greek king was Menander, who had discussed Buddhist philosophy with the Buddha bhikkhu named Nagsen. Menander, he is also referred to as Milinda. The questions that he asked to the bhikkhu Nagsen had to creation of the book Milinda Panha. So, the questions which was asked by the Indo-Greek king to a Buddhist bhikkhu Nagsen, the answers of the question and answers both are written in the Pali words. So they had given the name it as Milinda Panha. Here one picture about them they had given. Here the left side picture it is of king, and the another picture is of their deity, means of their god. Kushana kings. India was invaded from time to time by several tribes. The Kushanas were one such tribe from Central Asia. They established their rule in the northwestern region and in Kashmir in the 1st century CE. The Kushana kings were the first to start minting of gold coins in India. They started the custom of putting the images of Gautam Buddha and different Indian deities on the coins. The Kushana king Kanishka extended their empire. Now, they had given the details about the Kushana king. So here they had given that India was invaded from the time to time by several tribes. So many different tribes it had been taken place in our country. The Kushana were one of the tribe from Central Asia. They had established their rule in northwestern region from Kashmir in the 1st century CE. He was the first king who has started minting coins on gold coins in India. Again, they had followed the rule, the Indo-Greek kings theme they had used. They had put one side the Gautam Buddha image and on the other side the deity's image. And the Kushana king, he was the Kanishka empire. He had tried to expand the Kanishka empire in all over the part of the country. Emperor Kanishka. Kanishka's empire extended from Kabul in the west to Varanasi in the east. So, the Kushana king, he tried to extend the power of Kanishka empire from Kabul to west to Varanasi in the east. Gold and copper coins minted by him have been found in North India. So, the coins which he had minted was found in the archaeological excavation near the parts of the North India. The 4th Buddhist Council was held in Kashmir during his reign. So here also, as he was the follower of Buddha, due to which he tried to extend the power of Buddha. So the 4th Buddhist Council was held in Kashmir during his period. He established the city of Kanishkapur in Kashmir. It is believed that the village of Kanpur near Srinagar today could be Kanishkapur. So he established the city of Kanishkapur in Kashmir, and now a time we believe that the Kanpur which is in Srinagar, at that time it was named as Kanishkapur. It is just imagination. No any proofs we had got from this. The well-known poet Ashwaghosh lived during the region of Kanishka. He wrote the text Buddha Charita and Vajrasuchi. The famous Vaidyacharak was also in Kanishka's court. So, a well-known poet Ashwaghosh, who lived in the court of Kanishka of Kushana king, and the Buddha Charita, the Vajrasuchi, these are the famous Vaidyacharak of the Kanishka period. A gold coin of Kanishka, both sides. One side kings and another side Buddhas minted on the gold coin. Do you know, Kanishka gold coin, it was minted by Emperor Kanishka. It has the words Shao Nano Shao Kanishki Koshano. On one side, it means King of Kings, Emperor Kanishka Kushana. On the other side, there is an image of Gautam Buddha and the word Bodho means Buddha written in the Greek script. So here you can see the Buddha, they had written Boddo. So it denotes that Buddha. And here the Kanishka Emperor's king's image they had minted. On the other side, Gautam Buddha's picture they had minted. Next, the Gupta dynasty. The end of the 3rd century CE saw the rise of the Gupta dynasty. In North India, the Guptas remained in power for nearly 3 centuries. Sri Gupta was the founder of the Gupta dynasty. Samudragupta and Chandragupta II were the notable kings of the Gupta dynasty. Now, after the Kanishka emperors in 3rd century CE, it had been seen the rise of Gupta dynasty, and in North India, the Guptas remained in power for complete 3 centuries. Sri Gupta, he was the founder of the Gupta dynasty, and after the Sri Gupta, Samudragupta and Chandragupta, these are the 2 well-known kings of Gupta dynasty. So let's see about the Samudragupta. What is the work of Samudragupta? The expansion of the Gupta Empire began during the reign of Chandragupta I. His son Samudragupta defeated the smaller neighboring kingdoms and extended the empire further. In his time, the Gupta Empire spread from Assam up to Punjab. He had also conquered the eastern coastal region of the Kanchi in Tamil Nadu. Due to these victories, his power came to be recognized everywhere. As a result, kings on the northwest frontier as well as those in Sri Lanka made treaties of friendship with him. A pillar inscription at Prayag describes Samudragupta's conquest and victories. This inscription is known Prayag Prashti and also as Allahabad Prashti. He was an expert veena player. He minted coins which had a variety of images engraved on them. In one of them, he is seen playing the veena. His name Samudragupta is engraved on it. So, we are saying about the Samudragupta, the work which was done by Samudragupta. So, under this, they had given that he was a well-known expert of veena player. He liked to play veena, and an image is inscribed where he is playing veena. Here you can see a gold coin of Samudragupta both sides. So this is the picture of Samudragupta. Here he is playing veena. Also here they had given that he tried to expand the Gupta Empire during the regime of Chandragupta I, and the smaller places the Gupta Empire spread from Assam up to Punjab. He had also conquered the eastern coastal regions up to Kanchi in Tamil Nadu. Means he tried to expand the Gupta dynasty in different parts of the country and to become a powerful dynasty in the other dynasties. As a result, kings on the northwestern frontiers, they had Sri Lanka made treaties of friendship with him so that no one can defeat them or no one can harm them. A pillar inscription at Prayag describes Samudragupta's conquest, how he was. So a pillar inscription is inscribed on Prayag. So it gives the victory, it tells us the story about the Samudragupta and his victorious stories. The well-known inscriptions are Prayag Prashti and Allahabad Prashti. Next, Chandragupta II. After Samudragupta, his son Chandragupta II ascended the throne. He extended the Gupta Empire towards the northwest. He also won Malwa, Gujarat and Saurashtra. So, Chandragupta II, after the death of Samudragupta, his son Chandragupta II, he won the throne and he continued the Gupta dynasty. He tried to extend the power of Gupta dynasty in northwest and also in Malwa, Gujarat and Saurashtra. Just before starting, when we had seen the region, the map, in that they had given the Malwa, Gujarat and Saurashtra, which is under the Gupta dynasty. He established good relation with the powerful Vakataka rulers in the south by giving his daughter Prabhavati in marriage to Rudrasen II. So, Chandragupta II, he was well known to keep the relations with the other kings. So, to keep a good relation between a powerful king, Vakataka ruler, he gave his daughter Prabhavati in marriage to Rudrasen II. There is an iron pillar at Mehrauli near Delhi. It has not rusted even in the course of the last 1500 years. So, it is the history of the Mehrauli which was built during the period of Chandragupta II. This is the iron pillar. As we know, iron, when the iron comes contact with the water, it gets rust. But this is the iron pillar which never get rust, as 1500 years had been passed to that iron pillar. It is an excellent specimen of the metallurgical skill of the ancient Indian people. So from this we can come to know that the good quality of metals they were using at that time, and the skills which they were using, that we can come to know this from the given content. The inscription on the pillar bears the name of the king called Chandra. It is on this basis that the iron pillar is assumed to be of the period of Chandragupta II, as on that inscription on the pillar it had been beared the word that Chandra, due to which we are trying to expect that it is from the period of Chandragupta II. Do you know, the Chinese traveller Fa Hien came to India during the reign of Chandragupta II. In his Travelogue, he has described the social life during the Gupta period. You have to keep in the name of the Chinese traveller Fa Hien, because in coming lessons also we are going to see about the Fa Hien name and the content related to him. He says that Indian cities are big and prosperous. There are several guest houses for travellers and also several charitable organizations. The city has hospitals where the poor get medical treatment free of charge. There are great viharas and temples. People are free to choose any occupation. They move about freely. There are no restrictions on their movement. Government officers and soldiers are paid their salaries regularly. People do not drink alcohol or commit violence. The administration of the Gupta rule is conducted in the proper and efficient manner. This is the content which had been written by the Chinese traveller Fa Hien when he visited to India during the period of Chandragupta. In this period, the Buddha Bhikkhu Fa Hien came to India from China. He has written an account of his travels in India. From his writings, we learn about the efficient administration of the Gupta emperors. So, the content which was written by the Buddha Bhikkhu Fa Hien, from his content we can come to know that how well known and well famous Gupta emperor Chandragupta II was, and also from his writing we can come to know that what type of administration we were having at the time of kings and queens. The Vardhan dynasty. With the decline of the Gupta power, many states emerged in North India. The Vardhan dynasty was one of them. Prabhakar Vardhan was the king of Thansar near Delhi. The Vardhan dynasty was founded by him. His son Harshvardhan expanded the Vardhan Empire up to Nepal in the north, up to the river Narmada in the south, Assam in the east and Gujarat in the west. He had cordial relation with Raja Bhaskarvarman of Kamrup, that is ancient Assam. He had also established friendly relation with the Emperor of China and even sent his ambassador to the Chinese court. So, about the Vardhan dynasty they had given here, the content that Vardhan dynasty, with the decline of the Gupta power, a new power had been emerged, and under this the Vardhan dynasty had taken place, and the owner of this dynasty was Prabhakar Vardhan. He became the king of Thansar near Delhi, and Vardhan dynasty was founded by him. So his son Harshvardhan expanded the Vardhan Empire up to Nepal and Nepal, Assam and Gujarat. Raja Bhaskar Varman of Kamrup, he has good relation with them, with the Vardhan dynasty, and also they had given that the establishment friendly relation with the Chinese, with Emperor of China, and even sent his ambassador to Chinese court. So due to good relations, he sent his ambassador to the Chinese court. The capital of Harshvardhan's empire was Kanuj. The capital of Harshvardhan's empire was Kanuj. Trade flourished during his reign. He spent a large portion of his revenue for the welfare of the people every 5 years. He would distribute all his wealth amongst the people. So Harshvardhan empire was Kanuj. A trade flourished during his region, and whatever the profit he had gained, after every 5 years, he would distribute all his wealth among the people. So he was a charitable people, we can say, a charitable person. He gave charity. Whatever he won or whatever he gained the profit, he spent all that on the people, for the welfare of people. The court poet Bana Bhatta wrote Harshcharita, a biography of Emperor Harshvardhan. This text provides information on the life and achievements of Harshvardhan. Harshvardhan had become a follower of Buddhism but gave generous patronage to other religions too. He wrote 3 Sanskrit plays, Ratnavali, Naganand and Priyadarshika. The Buddhist bhikkhu Yongchang had come to India from China during his regime. He travelled to all parts of India. He stayed at the Nalanda University for 2 years. On returning to his homeland, he translated many Buddhist manuscripts into Chinese. So, this is about the Vardhan dynasty. As in the court of Bana Bhatta, he wrote Harshcharita, a biography of Emperor Harshvardhan, and also he had provided information about the life achievements which was done by Harshvardhan. Also, he was the follower of Buddhism. He gave a patronage to other religions also. He wrote Sanskrit plays Ratnavali, Nagananda and Priyadarshika. A Buddhist bhikkhu Yongchang, he had visited to India during his region of Harshvardhan. His name was Yongchang. He came from China to India. He travelled all the parts of India, and while returning, he had visited Nalanda University for 2 years. He stayed there and he had translated the Buddha manuscripts into Chinese and again went to China. One picture they had given of Yongchang, you can see. He is the person who visited during the region of Harshvardhan to India from China. Yongchang travelled all over India. He has words of praise for the people of Maharashtra. He writes, "The people of Maharashtra are a proud people. They never forget a favour done to them, but they do not spare anyone who insults them. They will help another in distress without a care even for their own life. They do not harm anyone who take refuge with them." So this is the words which was written by Yongchang for the Indian people. He said that Maharashtra people are the good peoples. They never forget the favour done for them, and also they never insult any person. If anyone distress him, then they will not refuse anyone. Nalanda University, picture they had shown here, Nalanda University. You can see. Also, you can take detailed information about this Nalanda University from internet. The last point which we are going to see now, 8.6 Powers in Northeast India. A story in Mahabharata tells about the marriage of Arjun and Ullapi, the princess of Manipur state in East India. The state of Kanpur emerged in the 4th century CE. It was established by Pushuvarman. His name has been mentioned in the pillar inscription of Samudragupta at Allahabad. Many inscriptions of the Kamrup kings are available. The epics Mahabharata and Ramayana use the name Prayag Jyotish for Kamrup. The capital of that state was Prayag Jyotishpur. Today we know it as the city of Guwahati in Assam. In the book Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, Kamrup is mentioned as Krihadiya as the region of the Kirat people. The Kamrup kingdom extended in the Brahmaputra river basin, Bhutan, some of the parts of Bengal and Bihar during the region of King Bhaskar Varman, Yongchong had visited Kamrup. So, about the powers in northeast India, they had given here that the Pashuvarman, he has founded the Kamrup state in the 4th century AD. Prayag Jyotishpur was the capital of Kamrup. Also here they had given that the kingdom extended up to the Brahmaputra valley, Bhutan and parts of Bengal and Bihar. These are the regions which they had tried to extend the power of Pashuvarman. Also, during this region, King Bhaskar Varman and Yongchong had visited the Kamrup. The Chinese traveler, he had also visited Kamrup when he was in India. Also, the epics of Mahabharata and Ramayana use the name Prayag Jyotish for Kamrup. So, in this chapter, we learned about the different kingdoms in North India that emerged in the period after the Mauryas. Similarly, we also learn about the situation in the northeastern parts of India during that period. In the next chapter, we will get acquainted with the kingdoms of the south of the same period. About same period we are going to see, but how the kingdoms acquainted in the south, that we are going to see. Now we had seen about the states after the Maurya Empire. In the coming chapter, we are going to see about the kingdoms of the south. So, in this chapter, we had seen about the Shang dynasty. About Shang dynasty, we had seen that after the death of Emperor Ashoka, the Maurya Empire declined. Brihadrat was the last Maurya king. Pashumitra Shang, the commander of Maurya army, led to the revolt. He excluded Brihadrat and founded the rule of Shang dynasty. In Indo-Greek kings, we had seen the Indo-Greek kings were the Greek kings who ruled in the northwest India. Menander or Milinda or Indian writings was a prominent Indo-Greek kings. His dialogues with the Buddhist bhikkhu Naksen on the Buddhist philosophy are complete in a book called Milinda Panaha. That is, Panaha means the questions of Milinda, the questions which was asked by Milinda to Buddha bhikkhu Naksen. That is only the name they had given, Milinda Panaha. Panaha means questions. After that, we had seen the Kushana kings. Under this content, we had seen the Kushana tribals from Central Asia invaded India and established their rule in the northeastern India and Kashmir. Also, the Kushana kings started the practice of minting gold coins by inscribing the image of Buddha and other Indian deities. After this, we had seen about the Kanishka Empire. Emperor Kanishka. Emperor Kanishka was the prominent Kushana ruler. His rule extended from Kabul to Varanasi. He convened the 4th Buddhist Council. He founded a new city, Kanishkapur in Kashmir. Ashwaghosh composed Buddha Charita and Vajrasuchi, the famous Vaidya Charak, was in his court of Kanishka. That all content we had seen in this. After this, we had seen the Gupta dynasty. The Gupta dynasty ruled India for nearly 300 years. Srigupta founded the Gupta dynasty, and also Chandragupta first laid the foundation of the Gupta Empire. He was succeeded by the Samudragupta, whose rule extended from Assam to Punjab. He also conquered territories up to Kanchi in the south. A stone inscription of Allahabad describes the conquest of the Samudragupta. Chandragupta II succeeded Samudragupta. He annexed Malwa, Gujarat and Saurashtra. He established the matrimonial alliance with the powerful Vakatakas in the south by giving his daughter Prabhavati in the marriage with Rudrasen II. It is believed that an iron pillar built near Delhi was built by Chandragupta II. Fahain, a Chinese traveler who had visited India during the period of Chandragupta II. In Vardhan dynasty, we had seen that the Vardhan rose to power with the decline of the Guptas in the 6th century AD. Prabhakar Vardhan was the founder of the Vardhan dynasty. Emperor Harshvardhan was the most renowned Vardhan king. His rule extended from Nepal in the north to the river Narmada in the south, and from Assam in the east to Gujarat in the west. And he had established friendly relation with the Chinese emperor and the king Bhaskar of Kamrup. He was a follower of Buddhism. Harshvardhan wrote the plays Ratnavali, Nagsen, and Priyadarshika. Trade prospered during his reign. He was a benevolent king who worked for the welfare of his subjects. He learned Chinese bhikkhu. Yongchong visited India during the time of Harshvardhan. And at last we had seen about the powers of northeast India. In that we had seen the Pashuvarman founded the Kamrup states in the 4th century AD. Prayag Jyotishpur was the capital of the Kamrup. The king extended up to Brahmaputra Valley. Bhutan are the parts of the Bengal and Bihar. During his reign, King Bhaskar Yongchong had visited Kamrup. These are the points which we had seen in this chapter. So in this way we had completed total exercise. Do you know they had given here? According to the Indian tradition, Kashmir was known as Kashyapur in ancient times. Greek historians have mentioned it by the names of Caspatras and Casperia. There is a mention that the Kamboj dynasty ruled there during the period of Mahabharat. During Emperor Ashoka's period, Kashmir had become a part of the Maurya Empire. In the 7th century CE, Kashmir was ruled by the Karkot dynasty. Kalhan has written about it in his book Raj Tarangini. So in this way we had completed this lesson. Complete question and answers and by heart the question and answers. That's all for today. Thank you.